Hey everybody, I'm going to go ahead and just jump right into the assignment, but it's great to be back with all of you guys. My definition of of the spiritual disciplines has always been pretty much the same. I think I grew up hearing not necessarily a definition, but what spiritual disciplines were. And I think I kind of just formed this definition on my own, just throughout my own experiences. But they're anything that um, makes you think, act, speak, live a little more like Christ than you did the day or minutes before. And I think that pretty much lines up with Dallas Willard's definition of spiritual formation or spiritual disciplines. Um, and I think inward, outward, and corporate disciplines, as far as those are concerned, I think inward and corporate disciplines can be really similar. They can be things like reading the Bible and praying and fasting and worshiping together. I think those are all spiritual disciplines that help you think, act, be more like Christ. But I think the difference for me and what I discern them to be is that inward disciplines kind of help you see what your personal individual role is in the mission of Jesus, what your personal sacrifice is going to look like, what your personal journey is going to be. And I think the corporate ones are going to allow you to see what the whole church, what your whole congregation's role is in the mission of Jesus. So that's where I think they differ a little. And then I think outward disciplines are things like service and acts of compassion. While all the disciplines are definitely a sacrifice of your time and energy and a little bit of the humanity side of who you are, I think outward disciplines allow yourself and other people to see that you're giving up something of your own, being a little more selfless and others centered, focusing on them. And I think as we do that, we get good feelings about it, and it helps us do it more often and have those hearts of compassion that God desires for us to have. Um, I practice spiritual disciplines every day. It is something that I was exposed to as a young person, growing up in a Christian house, in a pastor's house. I saw my parents get up early to read and be alone with God before we were up. That's how they started their day. And as we got older, like that was the expectation for us. You didn't come out of your room until you'd spent some quiet time with God. And I mean, for the most part, the spiritual disciplines that I grew up practicing were reading the Bible every day, praying and praying as much as you could during the day. We were always coming up with clever new ways to remember to pray and to read scripture with post-it notes all over the house, writing on our bathroom mirrors. As we got older, writing prayer requests on our Converse tennis shoes and stuff like that. So I definitely grew up with that, and I still practice those ones that I grew up with today, because it has just become a habit. And I don't think that habit has given them any less significance. It's just really a part of who I am. I pray, like I maintain this relationship that I have with God. I think the ones that I didn't grow up practicing that much, and I did see my parents practicing them and teaching about them, but I don't specifically practice solitude or retreats very well. And I even see that struggle in my parents. It was hard for them to get away from their four kids too, and from ministry. The people that you're responsible for always seem to have struggles, and I think it's hard for us as pastors to disconnect from those people. But one of the things I'm finding is that a spiritual discipline is a sacrifice. It's a way for us to look at who we are and show God that we're willing to grow closer to Him by giving away a little more of our humanity. Um, and I think as we do things that are the hardest for us, like for me as a mom to four kids who was interrupted four times while I made this video, it is incredibly difficult to find solitude, but I think we get to experience God's grace and His compassion and His love for us even deeper when we're willing to surrender those areas of us and sacrifice for the disciplines that are the hardest for us. Um, the church that I minister at, they do make spiritual disciplines a priority. So that's been incredibly encouraging to see, even with very young believers, encouraging them to learn what it looks like to soak through scripture and to be praying every day. Um, of course, we are starting small because most of the people that come to a church plant have never um, practiced any spiritual discipline other than maybe like working out every day and eating healthily. So, one of the really good parallels that we've talked about is that in the same way you maintain your physical health, spiritual disciplines are a way that you get to maintain your spiritual health, um, and continue to grow a little more into the person that you want to be.